everyone thinks they know Jada Pinkett Smith. I mean, really, if you've scrolled through any social media feed in, the last 5 years,
Yeah.
you have absolutely seen the meme.
Oh, absolutely. The red table talk glare.
That glare, yes. You've seen the Oscar slap, of course, and the just endless dissection of her marriage to Will Smith. It's gotten to this point of saturation where she's almost become like a caricature of herself in the public eye.
Which is so fascinating because when you actually sit down with the source material, and we have a lot of it, the biographical records, the business filings, her filmography, and especially her 2023 memoir, Worthy, that whole caricature just falls apart.
It really does.
Or, at least it reveals itself to be this tiny, tiny fraction of a much more complex reality.
That is exactly what struck me going through the stack for this deep dive. We are talking about a woman who was named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine in 2021.
2021. Not that long ago.
Not at all. And yet the conversation is almost always, reduced to Will Smith's wife or the lady who admitted to an entanglement.
The entanglement lady, yeah.
But the data, the actual facts, they paint a picture of someone who has been just completely defying categorization for 30 years.
And that's really the mission of this deep dive, isn't it? We need to unpack the trajectory of a woman who went from, and this is a fact, selling crack cocaine in Baltimore during the absolute height of the epidemic,
right,
to fronting a new metal band at Ozfest, to running a full-blown media empire. The narrative isn't just actress gets famous. It's about a constant, almost militant refusal to fit into any single box.
And the sheer volume of data we have on her is just wild. We've got deep dives into her specific ancestry. We have investment portfolios that would make a Wall Street broker blush and, detailed accounts of her time at the Baltimore School for the Arts.
It's all there.
So, yeah, let's forget the memes for an hour. Let's just look at the actual life.
And we have to start in Baltimore. September 18, 1971, Jada Pinkett is born. And even her name was kind of a statement.
Named after Jada Rowland, who was her mother's favorite soap opera actress. It's almost prophetic, right? Like she was sort of earmarked for drama, and theatrical drama from day one.
Exactly.
But the environment she was born into, it was not a soap opera set. It was intense.
Intense is putting it so mildly. To understand Jada, you really have to look at the lineage. On her mother's side, you have this rich Caribbean heritage. We're talking Jamaican and Bajan roots.
Okay.
On her father's side, African-American. But that core parental dynamic was fractured, almost immediately. Her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris, who people now know from Red Table Talk.
Gammy,
yeah. She became pregnant in high school. She married Jada's father, Rob Pinkett Jr., but that marriage just... It dissolved almost instantly.
And Rob Saul wasn't just, absent. He was a really complex figure in his own right. He ran a construction company, so he had that entrepreneurial drive. But he was also battling a very severe addiction.
And that addiction narrative, it seems to haunt the periphery of Jada's entire life story.
It really does.
It sets up this recurring theme of addiction and recovery that she deals with for decades. She eventually even credits Scientology's Narconon program for helping him get clean much, much later in his life.
Right. We'll have to circle back to the Scientology connections because that's a whole thing.
It is. But in those very early years, the stability, it just didn't come from her parents. It came from her grandmother.
Mary Martin Banfield. I love reading about this woman. She just sounds like an absolute force of nature.
A Jamaican-born social worker. Jada calls her a doer. And that's a very specific type of person, especially in a community that's struggling.
A doer.
Marion wasn't just trying to keep the lights on. She was actively trying to build a better community. Jada describes her as the moral compass. She's the one who looked at this little girl in the middle of Baltimore and said, essentially, you're going to be cultured. You are going to appreciate beauty and art.
And that's the part that just gets me. Because Baltimore in the 70s and 80s it was rough. We're talking about the era of The Wire, basically. But Marion is enrolling Jada in piano lessons, tap dance, and ballet. She's curating this entire artistic education in the middle of a very, very hard environment.
And that act right there, that creates the central tension of Jada's entire youth. It's this profound duality.
The duality.
On the one hand, she's a twig. She's participating in this very competitive after-school arts program. She eventually gets into the Baltimore School for the Arts, the BSA, which is a really prestigious institution.
She graduated in '89.
Exactly. She's studying dance and drama. She's reading plays. She's perfecting her posture at the bar. She's in that world.
And on the other hand, She is in the streets, and I don't mean she was just, like, hanging out on the block. She was living a completely different parallel life.
Completely parallel.
The sources say she was raised in Pimlico and Arlington, but she was hanging out in places like Cold Spring, Dolefield. I mean, these are neighborhoods where you got to keep your head on a swivel.
It's the stark contrast between the ballet bar and the corner. By the time she's a teenager, she's not just going to dance recitals. She's a regular at clubs like Odell's and Godfrey's famous ballroom.
Legendary spots.
And she's not just an observer in this world. She has admitted, on the record, many times, to selling drugs in the Cherry Hill neighborhood.
Okay, let's just pause on that for a second, because a lot of celebrities will say they were in the streets to get some clout. But Jada was actually, like, moving product while simultaneously attending a high-level performing arts school.
Yes.
The cognitive dissonance required to navigate those two worlds every single day is staggering to me.
It is, but I also think it's a skill set. I mean, think about what drug dealing actually requires.
Okay.
Risk assessment, reading people instantly, high-stakes negotiation, understanding leverage and power dynamics. If you can successfully navigate a drug deal in Cherry Hill at 16 years old without getting shot or arrested, then dealing with Hollywood agents is frankly a walk in the park.
That's a really great point. It honestly explains that kind of steeliness she has. She never looks rattled in interviews. Ever.
Never. Because she learned to wear a mask very early on. She had the art school Jada mask and the Cherry Hill Jada mask. And if you look at her filmography later, which we'll get into, she is constantly playing these characters who are tough, raw survivors.
Right.
That's not method acting. For her, that's just sense memory.
Speaking of the Baltimore School for the Arts, we absolutely have to talk about the other luminary walking those same halls, the relationship that really defines her entire early life, Tupac Shakur.
You cannot tell Jada's story without Tupac. It's impossible. They met at BSA, and by all accounts, the bond was instantaneous. But people always want to romanticize it into a sexual thing.
Yeah, they do.
And Jada has been fighting that specific narrative for 30 years.
She calls him a once-in-a-lifetime relationship. She says he was one of my best friends, like a brother. And Tupac said, quote, "Jada is my heart. We'll be old together."
I mean, that's heavy.
It's so heavy. It sounds so much more like soulmates than lovers.
I think so. It feels more like that Greek concept of agape or philia, a love that kind of transcends romance. And Jada has always maintained it was platonic. In fact, she revealed a detail in her memoir, Worthy, that I think shocked a lot of people.
A proposal.
The marriage proposal, yeah.
This was when he was at Rikers Island in 1995, right?
That's correct. He was incarcerated, facing really serious time. He proposes marriage to her from prison. And Jada, despite loving him so deeply, said no.
That must have been an incredibly hard decision.
I mean, can you imagine? But she knew that merging their lives legally, especially with the absolute chaos surrounding him at that time, was just a path she couldn't go down. That takes an incredible amount of maturity and self-awareness for a woman in her early 20s.
But she didn't abandon him. Not at all. The loyalty she showed him, both before and during that time, is just the stuff of legend. The bail money is the detail that always sticks out to me.
$100,000.
$100,000.
In 1995 cash.
And think about it. At that point, she was on a different world. She'd done a couple of movies, but she wasn't Will Smith rich yet. Not by a long shot. $100,000 must have been a huge chunk of her entire net worth.
It was a massive, massive risk.
Yeah.
He was awaiting appeal on sexual abuse convictions. It was incredibly controversial to support him publicly like that. But she put the money up because he was her person. And it wasn't just financial. She put her career on the line for him professionally, too.
The Menace-Tessic Society situation.
The Menace-Tessic Society situation, exactly. This
Yeah.
is 1993. This is supposed to be her breakout film role. She gets the part of Ronnie, and she actually got the role through Tupac. He helped her get in the door.
Okay.
But when the directors, the Hughes brothers, fired Tupac after some kind of on-set conflict, Jada was ready to walk. She was going to quit her first big movie in solidarity.
Which is just absolute career suicide for a rookie actor.
Total suicide. Tupac himself had to talk her off the ledge. He was the one who convinced her to stay and do the movie. But she held that grudge.
Or she did.
Later on, when the Hughes brothers were casting their next film, Dead Presidents, they offered her a role. She turned it down flat. And she specifically cited her loyalty to Tupac as a reason why.
In Hollywood, where people would, sell their own grandmother for a lead role, that kind of principled stand is almost unheard of. It's incredible.
It really is. It highlights that street code we were talking about earlier. You don't cross the family. You stay loyal. And even after he passed, She kept that connection alive in a very public way.
The theater.
She donated $1 million to the Baltimore School for the Arts in 2006, and she named the new theater after him.
So his name is literally on the building where they first met.
It's a tragic but very beautiful arc.
So while she's navigating this incredibly intense personal saga with Tupac, she's also trying to break into Hollywood for real. And it wasn't like she just walked onto the A-list. It was a grind.
Oh, it was a standard LA hustle at first. She did a year at the North Carolina School of the Arts, then packed up and headed west. She got the usual guest spots, True Colors, 21 Jump Street, even Doogie Howser, MD.
Right, paying the bills.
Paying the bills. But the real pivot, the game changer, was 1991, A Different World.
Lena James.
The character of Lena James was, it's basically Jada, a tough girl from a poor part of Baltimore who's trying to adjust to the, polite bourgeois atmosphere of a historically black college campus.
It is art imitating life perfectly. She brought that around-the-way girl energy to Hillman College, and it just popped off the screen.
And if you look at the arc of that character, it's also really interesting. Lena starts as an engineering major, all about the hard facts, then switches to journalism. She's smart, she's sharp, but she's always a bit of a fish out of water. That role let Jada showcase her natural charisma and that specific edge she has. It made her a household name in black households, absolutely. But she was already eyeing the mainstream.
And 1994 seems to be the year that the dam just completely broke for her. A low-down, dirty shame.
Directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans, a huge hit. And the critics loved her. The New York Times called her performance sassy and sizzling.
Sassy and sizzling. I love that.
Then she does Jason's Lyric in the exact same year. And Roger Ebert, who was famously tough on everyone, he specifically praised her chemistry with Alan Payne. He wrote that they actually seemed to like each other, which he said was a surprisingly rare quality in screen romances.
That's high praise from Ebert. But then we get to 1996. And that's the year. The Nutty Professor, that is a global smash hit.
$274 million worldwide. She's playing opposite Eddie Murphy at the absolute peak of his comeback. She's the sweet, charming love interest, Carla Purdy. It proves she could anchor a 4-quadrant blockbuster.
A huge deal. But then in the exact same year, she drops Set It Off.
And Set It Off is a cultural monument. I don't think you can overstate how important that movie is, especially for black cinema.
No, you can't.
It's just critical.
Yeah, well,
She plays Stoney. She's one of 4 women who are robbing banks to try and escape poverty. It's gritty, it's violent, it's deeply tragic. And to go from the sweet girlfriend in The Nutty Professor to a desperate bank robber and Set It Off in the same calendar year, that showed the entire industry that she had serious range. The San Francisco Chronicle reviewed it and labeled her the one to watch after that performance.
Which then leads directly into the blockbuster, Scream 2 in 97.
Which is such an iconic opening scene. Getting murdered in front of the movie theater audience watching a movie about themselves, it's so meta.
It's perfect. And then, The Matrix, Niobe.
Now this is where she becomes a true action icon. This was 2003 for Reloaded and Revolutions. And the best part of this story is that the Wachowskis wrote the character of Niobe specifically for her.
I think that they didn't even audition her.
No audition. They just wanted Jada. That's a flex.
That is a serious flex.
It is. And think about the timing. She had just finished filming Ali, where she played a completely different type of role. Muhammad Ali's first wife, Sanji Roy. Very period-specific, very dramatic. And then she immediately cuts her hair, puts on the leather trench coat, and becomes this badass spaceship captain.
And she did the video game for it too, right? Enter the Matrix.
Which was a massive deal at the time. She actually won an Interactive Achievement Award for that performance. People forget that the Enter the Matrix game had a full hour of live action footage that was directed by the Wachowskis that was not in the movies.
Wow.
So Jada was basically carrying a 3rd interactive movie on her back for the gaming console. It totally solidified her status as a physical performer and an action star.
So, okay, let's recap. We have drama Jada, we have comedy Jada, we have action Jada. And then we get metal Jada.
Yes. Wicked wisdom.
This is the part of her career that I think confuses people the most, but honestly, I find it the most fascinating. In 2002, at pretty much the height of her Hollywood fame, she decides to form a new metal band.
And let's be really clear, this was not some pop rock vanity project. This was heavy. This was aggressive music.
Yeah.
And the motivation is key. She said she grew up listening to Metallica and Guns N' Roses.
Right.
Yeah. And she looked around the metal scene in the early 2000s and saw, basically 0 black women. And she essentially asked the question, why can't I do that? Why can't I rock out like Axl Rose?
The band lineup was legit, too. It wasn't just a bunch of session guys. Pocket Honoré on guitar, Cameron Worm Graves, Rio on bass, and it was all managed by Overbrook, Will's company.
Right. But the pivotal moment, the trial by fire, was Ozfest 2005.
This story is incredible.
It is. So Sharon Osbourne saw them play a tiny club in L.A. and was apparently just blown away by Jada's stage presence, so she books them for Ozfest. Now, you have to understand, the Ozfest crowd in the mid-2000s.
It is not a friendly crowd, not for outsiders.
This is a hostile environment for anything that even smells like Hollywood or inauthentic. You have these hardcore metalheads who paid to see Slayer and Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, and here comes the actress from the Nutty Professor fronting a metal band.
I read reports that people were throwing bottles, booing them off stage.
Oh, it was brutal. The first few dates were incredibly rocky. People were yelling, "Go home, actress." There were racial slurs, misogyny, just all of it. But Jada's response to that was pure Baltimore. Her quote was, "I'm not here asking for any favors. You've got to show and prove."
Show and prove. That's the motto.
She went out there every single night and just screamed her lungs out. She threw her body around the stage. And the band members all recount that by about the 6th or 7th gig, the tide actually turned.
No.
Yes. The metalheads stopped throwing bottles and they started moshing. She earned their respect in the absolute hardest way possible.
That's that grit we were talking about from the intro. It would have been so easy for her to quit and go back to her mansion in Calabasas. But she stayed on the tour bus.
And she even did a tour opening for Britney Spears on the Onyx Hotel tour, which has to be the most bizarre billing in music history.
That's laughing. Wicked Wisdom opening for Britney Spears. I can't even imagine.
And they toured with Seven Dust, a very respected heavy band. It just showed she wasn't doing it for the money. She certainly didn't need touring money. She was doing it purely for the expression.
So while she's conquering Ozfest and the box office, her personal life is becoming a global brand in itself. The marriage to Will Smith.
The ultimate power couple of the late 90s and 2000s. But again, the origin story is messier and more interesting than people remember. They met on the set of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in 1994. Jada auditioned for the role of Lisa Wilkes, Will's girlfriend.
And they told her she was too short.
Can you believe it? Too short. Nia Long got the part. But Will was apparently immediately smitten. He said he felt a spark. But, and this is a key detail, he didn't act on it because he was still married to his first wife, Cherie Fletcher.
So he was respectful about it.
He was. He only reached out to Jada in 1995 after that marriage had officially ended.
And then came the wedding. New Year's Eve, 1997. At the Cloisters, this beautiful castle-like mansion near Baltimore.
A very lavish, very secret wedding. And Jada is 3 months pregnant with Jaden at the time. And this is a detail from her recent press tour that really reframes everything.
Yeah.
She did not want a wedding.
She said she cried the whole way down the aisle, right?
Cried the whole way, and not happy tears. She said she felt enormous pressure, specifically from her mother, Adrienne, to have a traditional ceremony because she was pregnant. Jade has been quoted saying she never wanted to be married in that institutional sense. She said this amazing thing, "I will throw my career away before I let it break up our marriage." She meant the partnership, the union, but the actual wedding ceremony, she said she hated it.
Wow, that really sets the stage for everything that follows, doesn't it? From day one, there was this intense friction between the societal expectation of what marriage should be and what Jada actually wanted for her life.
Exactly. They went on to build this incredible life. Jaden born in 98, Willow in 2000, and she became a stepmother to Trey from Will's first marriage. But their whole parenting style was always alternative.
The gardening analogy.
Will called it gardening. His philosophy was you just water the seed and let the child become what they are, rather than trying to force them into a shape you've predetermined. Which, leads us to the studied tech controversy.
Yes. This is something that pops up in the background of their lives for years.
It's the Scientology connection. They founded their own school, the New Village Leadership Academy, in Calabasas, and they openly used a teaching method called study technology, which was developed by L. Ron Hubbard.
Okay, so can you explain what that actually is? Because people hear Scientology and they immediately freak out.
In theory, on paper, it's about a concept called word clearing. The idea is to make sure a student understands the definition of every single word in a sentence before they move on to ensure full comprehension.
Which sounds benign enough.
It sounds benign, but because it's the foundational pedagogy of Scientology itself, Many educators and former members view it as a kind of gateway to the doctrine. The Smiths poured millions of their own money into this school, and they used the method for homeschooling Jaden and Willow.
But they never officially joined the Church of Scientology.
They have always denied being Scientologists. Jada credited the Narconon program, which is also Hubbard-based, for helping her father get sober. So she clearly saw value in some of the tools, but they always maintained an independence from the organization itself. And it's just another example of them taking what they want from a system and completely ignoring the labels and the baggage.
Which brings us to the rumors. I mean, the open marriage whispers, they started way back in early 2010.
Around 2013, yeah. Jada gave an interview where she said something like, Will can do whatever he wants as long as he could look himself in the mirror. And the tabloids just ran with it.
Of course.
The headlines were, Jada confirms open marriage. She had to go on Facebook and write this long post clarifying that she meant their relationship was based on deep trust and love, not that they were, swingers.
But where there's smoke, well, in this case, there was August Alsina.
2020, the year that everything just broke wide open. August Alsina, an R&B singer who was friends with their son Jaden, goes on a radio show and claims he had this intense, years-long affair with Jada.
And the kicker was he claimed he had Will's permission.
That was the part that blew it all up.
Yeah.
Because that implies the open marriage was real all along.
So that forced Jada's hand.
Completely. She took herself to the red table, July 2020, the infamous entanglement episode.
That one word changed pop culture for a solid year.
It really did.
Yeah.
And in that episode, she did confirm the relationship. But the context she gave is the part that I think everyone conveniently ignores.
Which was?
She said that at the time, she and Will were separated amicably, they were living apart, they were effectively done with the romantic part of their marriage.
So when Alsina said he had Will's permission, Jada's argument was essentially, we were broken up. The only person whose permission was needed was mine.
Exactly. She was reclaiming her own agency in the narrative.
Yeah.
She wasn't a cheating wife. She was a separated woman who was exploring a connection during a very difficult time in her life. She said she eventually broke it off with him, and she and Will reconciled. But that episode just shattered the public illusion of the perfect Smith family.
But then her memoir, Worthy, comes out in 2023, and she drops the real bombshell, the one that recontextualizes everything.
The timeline. This is the crucial data point that changes the whole story. She revealed in the book that she and Will have been living completely separate lives since 2016.
2016, that is 6 years before the Oscar slap.
6 years. So when we, the public, watched them on red carpets, when we saw the Happy Family Instagram posts, when we saw the slap, they were living in separate houses the entire time.
Wow.
They were, in her words, emotional partners and business partners. They were legally married, but they were romantically and domestically divorced.
That recontextualizes the slap entirely. It changes everything about that moment.
It does. Let's look at the Oscars in 2022. Chris Rock makes the G.I. Jane joke.
Which is aimed directly at Jada's alopecia.
And we need to talk about the alopecia. She was diagnosed in 2018. She said it was terrifying just seeing clumps of hair in her hands in the shower. Losing your hair is traumatic for anyone, but for an actress whose beauty is part of her brand, it's devastating.
Sure.
She went public with it in December 2021, shaved her head, really tried to own it. She posted a video saying, Mama's going to have to take it down to the scalp. Me and this alopecia are going to be friends.
So Chris Rock makes a joke about her shaved head. Will sees Jada roll her eyes. He sees the hurt on her face.
And he snaps. But knowing they were separated adds this whole other layer of, I don't know, is it performative protection? Is it guilt? He was defending the wife he wasn't actually living with as a husband.
That's so complex.
It wasn't just about a joke at that point. It was about the complex, messy, undefined nature of their bond. He was asserting a husband role that, in private, didn't really exist in the traditional sense anymore.
It's just tragic. It completely destroyed his public image, at least for a while, and it put her right back in the crosshairs as the villain who somehow made him do it.
Which is so deeply unfair. She didn't ask him to slap anyone. She rose her eyes. But because she's always been perceived as the strong one or the one in control, the manipulator narrative just took hold immediately.
But through all of this personal chaos, though, business is booming. She is not just sitting at home dealing with drama, she's actively building companies.
She's a full-on mogul. There's 100% Women Productions, her own company. Then there's Westbrook Inc., the massive media company she co-founded with Will. She's an executive producer on Hawthorne. The medical drama she started on TNT. She produced The Secret Life of Bees.
And the Broadway show.
Yes, she was a producer on Fela on Broadway, which got nominated for 11 Tony Awards.
And she was so early on the natural beauty wave, too.
So early. She invested in Carol's daughter back in 2005. That's Lisa Price's brand. Back then, big beauty companies were completely ignoring the natural hair market for black women. Jada saw the value, saw the community, and put her money there. That brand eventually sold to L'Oreal for a fortune. That's just savvy investing.
And then there's Red Table Talk itself. That show fundamentally changed the landscape of celebrity talk shows.
It won a Daytime Emmy in 2021. But more importantly, it was a strategic masterstroke. By creating her own platform, with her mother and her daughter, 3 generations of women, she completely removed the middleman.
Right.
She didn't have to go to Oprah or Diane Sawyer to explain her life. She could do it on her terms, at her own table, controlling the entire narrative.
It's the ultimate control move. It's like, I will tell you about the affair, but I will do it on my show, and I will be the one who gets the ratings and wins the Emmy for it.
Precisely. It turns the scandal into content. It turns the pain into a product. And that is the definition of a modern media mogul.
So we've looked at the drug dealer, the art school kid, the sitcom star, the action hero, the rock star, the wife, the mogul. What is the through line here? When you look at all this data, what are we supposed to learn from the life of Jada Pinkett Smith?
I think the key takeaway is a fundamental rejection of passivity. At no point in her story is Jada Pinkett Smith a passenger in her own life. She is always in the driver's seat, whether she was facing down drug dealers in Cherry Hill, or staring down a hostile crowd of metalheads at Ozfest, or staring down a camera to confess a marital entanglement. She insists on being the author of her own story.
She lives in that duality we talked about at the top.
She embodies it. Her life is proof that you can be classy and heard, you can be deeply spiritual and incredibly messy, you can be a devoted wife and a free agent all at the same time. She just refuses to simplify herself to make the rest of us comfortable.
And I think that's probably why she triggers so many people. We want our celebrities to fit neatly into a box, and she just burns the box down.
She burns the box down and then dances in the ashes while fronting a metal band.
So here's the thought that I want to leave everyone with as we wrap this up. We now know from the source material that she and Will have been separated since 2016. They say they're working on it, but they are content with this life partnership that isn't a traditional marriage.
Right, a partnership.
So my question is this. Is their relationship a failure because it didn't look like the fairy tale we all thought it was? Or is it actually a successful evolution of what a long-term partnership can be?
That's the question.
Maybe they're just showing us what partnership looks like when that old promise of till death do us part meets the messy reality of modern, high-pressure, constantly evolving lives. Maybe their marriage isn't broken. Maybe they're just more honest about its complexities than the rest of us are willing to be.
It's a really good question. Are we judging them because they failed at the old model or because they might be succeeding in a new one we don't understand yet?
Something to think about. A huge thanks for diving deep with us today. This was a complex one.
Always a pleasure. It was a great one.
We'll see you on the next one. Keep digging.